influencing popular culture, politics, and everything in between. The local station takes you ringside as we discuss the crazy world that is professional wrestling. This is Going Ringside with the local station.
Hello there, and thank you for joining us for another episode of Going Ringside. I'm your host, Scott Johnson. So glad you could be with us today. We got the star of the stars, rather, the whole cast from the hit Netflix show Wrestlers with us today. And we are going to sit down with them and chat with them about this show that has become a blockbuster success for Netflix in just a little bit. But we got a lot to get to. First off, last week, one of the greatest tag teams in history, maybe the greatest of all time on the planet Earth, the Hardys, were here. Jeff and Matt Hardy sat down with us. Go check it out in the archives right now. They had a lot to say, met with me and the fans, and Top Dollar, AJ Francis, was with me to help out on that major interview with the Hardys, so go back and check it out right now. And one other thing I want to mention, let me get my notes out here. I should have had them ready for you. It involves the woman who is going to be becoming a regular on our show in just a few weeks, and that would be Victoria Crawford, who you knew better as Alicia Fox in WWE, as we've talked about a little. Victoria will be joining us on the show, and let me pull up my notes, which I should have ready for you guys, to talk about one of the things she's doing right now that is going on that I wanted to tell you all about, and that is a thing for independent wrestlers. So, independent wrestlers, listen up. This event is going on in September for you to go out and learn how to make it big in this industry. So September 9th and 10th, Victoria Crawford, along with an organization called Masters of Ring Entertainment, will host a virtual event called the Ring Accelerator that teaches you how to essentially navigate the independent wrestling world. It's for anyone in the country. Anyone who sees this can get involved. And let me tell you where to sign up right now. It is at mastersoftheringaccelerator.com is where you go. Once again, that is September 9th and 10th. And as I've said, we look forward to our immediate partnership with Victoria Crawford in coming weeks. So look for her in weeks to come, and she's going to bring all her 2 decades as a star in WWE knowledge to the show on, we hope, a pretty regular basis. So now I want to talk to you about why we're here today. That would be Al Snow and his students at Ohio Valley Wrestling, who were the stars of that Netflix show, Wrestlers. I was able to sit down with them and chat about the show, what it was like to have the entire world watching you as just an up-and-comer who no one's ever heard before. Then all of a sudden, you're world famous on Netflix. So it is an exciting sit-down interview with Al Snow, 3 of his students, one who is somewhat of a heel and not exactly the easiest interview to conduct. So here it is. Here is our interview with the cast of the hit Netflix show Wrestlers here on Going Ringside. Hey, I am Scott Johnson, host of the Going Ringside podcast. So glad you could be with us today to join the legend and his students, so to speak. And we want to thank Farrah and Farrah for sponsoring this today. Al Snow is here, along with Tiffany Nieves from OVW. Mm-hmm. You want to add a chair? We may have some more guests here coming. Introduce yourself, please.
Will Austin, former OVW Rush Division champion.
Well, let's start with you down at the end, Al. Al, you started all this. You were the legend for all those years. Tell us about how you got into OVW and into just running one of the more infamous territories in existence.
Well, yeah. I decided one day to rib myself. Figured life was too boring. I might as well torture myself more by buying a wrestling company. Actually, what happened was I got a little frustrated because of the fact that there are no real standards in regards to training for professional wrestling these days. And my wife, who's a licensed masseuse, I thought that it was insulting that for professional wrestling training, all you have to do is just any commission in the country, you just pay your money and you get a license and you're done. And considering that For one, it's a profession, and two, whenever any of these young men and young women get into the ring, there's a percentage of a chance that they could suffer a life-altering or life-ending injury.
Sure.
And if you want to be a barber, or you want to be a beautician, hell, even if you want to be a mortician, you've got to go to a state-accredited school. You have to be taught by a state-accredited teacher or instructor. You have to complete a certain number of educational hours, and then you have to have a certain number of residency hours, hands-on experience, supervised experience, before you can even take a test to be licensed as that profession. Professional wrestling, you just pay your fee and take a physical, and
And it's frankly one of the most dangerous professions there is.
Very much so. And so I started contacting the commissions and proposing that they institute some standards, and I just was rebuffed. And at the time that one of my partners, his name is Chad Miller, was the executive director of the Boxing Wrestling Commission. I met him there when I went to one of the meetings to have this proposal.
This is in Kentucky?
Yes. And I contacted Maryland, Louisiana, Oklahoma, and nobody, and the sad thing was that year in Oklahoma, a young man was in a professional wrestling match and had a head injury and went into a coma and then died several weeks later. So that was what motivated me to do this, was that I was just getting frustrated and fed up. And then at the time I was kind of hanging around OVW, and because Danny Davis and I were good friends, and he mentioned that he was ready to retire and would I be interested. And at first I thought he was kidding, and then my business partner Chad Miller got wind of it, and one thing led to another, and here I am today.
I do want to get to the students in 1 second, but I want to ask you, how did the Netflix deal come about? Did they approach you, or how did that happen?
So we, once COVID hit, we stayed, kept the doors open, kept things going, but we were in a financial situation. We acquired a couple more partners, one by Craig Greenberg, who's now the mayor of Louisville, and Matt Jones, who's a radio personality, and a couple other guys. And
everybody stand.
Oh, well, we got to interrupt.
Hey guys,
We got another
hold on.
guest coming up with us.
yeah,
Another star.
now
Chair.
business is picked up.
I'm going to run and get her a chair.
Oh,
Oh, not everyone at once. Thank you.
yeah. What a gentleman.
Hi. I'm doing great.
It's Haley's birthday, by the way.
Yeah,
It
it's
is.
Haley's birthday.
Happy birthday, Al.
Everyone sing.
We should all sing happy birthday to Haley. What
All
do
right,
you
let's
guys-
do it. Happy birthday to you. That's happy birthday to Haley. Happy birthday to Hollywood. Happy birthday to you. Woo!
So Hollywood
gotta
Haley,
push the button
you
so
got to
you
push
can
the button,
hear
but
it.
she's bringing a lot of energy into this room right now.
Gotta push it.
Oh, to talk?
Yeah.
Talk.
I think there's a trick. If you place your phone on the push button, it
Yeah,
keeps
the
it
corner of the phone will have just enough weight.
for me?
Well, real quickly, Al, you were saying that the Netflix deal, Netflix eventually
So Craig
started.
Greenberg and his wife were attending a wedding, and they had a high school friend there at the wedding, and conversation started, and Craig mentioned that he had just recently bought into OVW, and then it just so happened that this friend was a lady who worked as an executive producer for BBC America. So the conversation started there. Matt Jones proposed the idea of contacting Greg Whiteley, who was the director of Last Chance U and Cheer, and Greg knew one of the BBC producers, Alejandro is his name, Mendez. Alejandro flew out, did a teaser reel to submit to Greg. Greg watched it, was completely caught up in it, wanted it to be his next project. Went and pitched the idea to the Netflix executives. They then gave him a budget. He did a teaser for them. And then voila, we were approved. And they showed up the last week of May, and we're filming 12 to 16 hours a day, 7 days a week until the end of August.
Now, now to you, wrestlers, students, but more wrestlers than students, what was it like when you walk in and you're starting this industry and all of a sudden this global juggernaut of an entertainment industry and Netflix is putting cameras on you everywhere you go? What was that like?
I think he's asking you guys.
Dang, why doesn't it work for me?
You just got to be
Corner
smarter
of the
than
phone.
microphone.
Corner of the phone's got just enough weight.
So anyways, it was actually kind of annoying at first. I definitely wasn't used to people following me around 24/7. And I mean, as soon as I was on the property, they were like, oh, we got eyes on Haley J. Where is she? And they were up my butt from then on. So it was definitely different. I will say that. But I'm thankful because, you know, now I'm an international superstar. So.
What was it like for you?
It's really funny that she mentions that because I had just met Haley for the first time when I came. It was very overwhelming. I'm meeting the entire roster and I'm seeing this Netflix crew in, and I remember Haley laughing, going, you know, they follow me everywhere, so if you don't want that, I'll see you by the end of the summer. And that's exactly what kind of happened, honestly.
Really?
Remember saying that?
Sure.
And for you, what was it like? Were you there with all the cameras?
So I came in at the tail end of it, and we have cameras as it is, but there was like 20 times more cameras and 20 times more people. So the locker rooms were very tight. Everything was always in your face, but we just kept focused eyes on the wrestling per usual.
And I do want to open it to, once again, Fair and Fair is sponsoring this. Any questions from the audience? And for our TV viewers, I will repeat all your questions. Anyone got questions? Yes, right there in the front row. Which wrestlers has been your favorite to work in the ring with and why?
I'm going to tell you right now, I'm very fortunate to be a part of the OVW roster, and I love getting the opportunity to have my hands on Hollywood Haley. That's my person. Whether it's the same, she'll never admit it, but the competition is always there, so I'm going to say Hollywood Haley for me.
Everyone wants to get their hands on Hollywood Haley J. Yeah.
She's really annoying.
I have good matches. You know what? I don't have, everyone always asks me this question. I don't have a favorite answer. I'll take anybody who, you know, is a trained professional wrestler, and I can do business and make anyone look good. So, anyone. Give me anyone.
For me, I've been very fortunate in this business to have a lot of names that I'm not going to drop, but my favorite would be the old man to the left if he ever decides to get back into the ring.
They did do something in Canada. I believe did he hit you with his head?
Yeah, well, because of this, I'm benefiting from it. I was able to partake in Canada as well, where he brought his plastic head, where he does everywhere else, and hits me below the belt before he gives me across the head.
I got to ask, so Head still exists? Head is still around?
Oh, yeah, they still are, yeah. They were out whoring around last night. They're up in the room right now taking a nap.
It happens. Any other questions from the audience? Al, favorite opponents. Good point.
I honestly,
You did get smacked by Haley.
Been asked a lot of that. You know, what's your favorite opponent? What's your favorite match? I got to tell you, you know, and it's not a cop-out answer. It's the truth. I've been blessed to do what I love to do for 42 years, and every single time if I've went to the ring in front of 6 people, I've went to the ring in front of 600. I've went to the ring in front of 6,000. I've went to the ring in front of 60,000. And every time was an absolutely amazing experience that I enjoyed. Some nights were a little more enjoyable than others, but, you know, when I really break it down, and it took a little while for me to really get a perspective, I realized that I am a grown man who has been able to make a living fake fighting other grown men in my underwear all over the world. It's pretty awesome.
It is awesome.
Exactly.
And to you younger wrestlers, he was saying a lot at the beginning of this that a lot of schools don't teach the proper way in an industry that is inherently dangerous and could be crippling. What has it been like, the training that you've received?
So I was actually trained in Florida years ago, and Al was actually one of my very first wrestling seminars.
You can tell that he was trained in Florida as well.
And Al was one of my very first wrestling seminars, and when I came to OVW, of course, he's very old school, so I had to adjust from what I was learned to his way of doing things, which is very different.
There ain't no old school and new school. There's right and wrong.
I think Al made a really good point when he was speaking earlier about to be a licensed massage therapist, it requires a lot of exams, putting in the hours. There's a lot of guidance for that. I am actually one myself. And then when you are offered maybe an 8-week program to learn wrestling as fast as possible, I was in one of those programs and it was great, but not everyone gets that opportunity. But when I went to OVW, I learned not only to be safe, but to also protect myself. And that's so important because you want to be able to do this for a very long time.
I also want to get your opinion on the Netflix show. Like, things that came out on the show when it finally came out and you finally saw it, things that you were surprised by that you maybe didn't expect when you had a camera in your face 24/7.
Okay, well, first of all, I'm just going to run back to the other thing because I feel like I got skipped. And
Oh,
I
yes,
I just
please
want
do.
to say that Al Snow created a superstar here. I was also already trained before I came to OVW. He picked me up during COVID. He found me in a little arena in Indiana. And yeah, I went to OVW. I was an indie wrestler. I looked like an indie wrestler. I worked like an indie wrestler. This man taught me how to work the cameras. He taught me how to be a star, a larger-than-life persona. And I think any young wrestlers who need to learn how to be a superstar need to go to OVW. Boom.
Retweet.
All right, now back to the surprises. Other than like relationship things, I think that was the most surprising thing for me. The wrestling stuff, we stayed up all night to binge watch it to kind of like see what I had said on those cameras because I do not remember. And I mean, obviously things get heated. Wrestling is wrestling and things happen. And I honestly expected a lot more nonsense to be on there. So I'm very blessed. I had a few things. I'm sure me smoking, everyone, oh no. I'm sure that was a big shock to everyone, but yeah, that's me, so.
One thing I will say for not being there for a part of it, when the series did come out that everybody was watching it, I will say it did bring the locker room a lot closer together.
Tiffany?
I just want to thank you guys all. My voice is so monotone because I just wrestled, which is awesome. I hope you guys are all watching their live wrestling right now.
And Al, how would you compare it to Tough Enough? Was it similar or different?
In a lot of ways, very similar. You know, it was when we did Tough Enough, which was really in the very early stages of reality TV. You know, it was much the same way. They turned the cameras on and they left them on 24 hours a day, and they just filmed what was happening, and then you know would put together a story based off of what occurred. They never told us what to say or what to do, and this being a documentary was very much the exact same thing. The only negative thing that I had heard online, which really was surprising because I expected a lot of negative remarks and negative comments, but we didn't get any other than some people believed that it was all scripted and was all put on, and I can promise you it was all 100% real, and they just brought the cameras in and captured what everyone was and what everyone did and who everyone was. And Greg was such a very talented storyteller. He was able to put all that together in a story that allowed an audience to follow it and care about the characters.
And one thing I noticed, like, Dark Side of the Ring is an example of something that's really penetrated the general consciousness of the public. A lot of wrestling programming doesn't. Yours did. Why do you think it connected with audiences just on a really beyond wrestling fans, just, you know, a general public? Why did the general public respond to the show the way they did?
Because I think Greg did an excellent job in who these people are, portraying that to an audience. You know, I preach this and have been preaching it and will continue to preach it, that in any form of entertainment, it's you as an audience care about who that person is, and if you can identify with them and why they're doing whatever activity it is you're watching. That's it. You don't sell anything else. Contrary to what is popular in professional wrestling now, where everybody's conditioned to sell what is being done, not who or why, and who or why are why you really ultimately love wrestling and why you pay to see it and you come to conventions and stand around a bunch of other sweaty people to have a brief moment with a wrestler. It's not because of what they did, it's because of who they were and how much you believed in them and how much you identified with them.
I agree. Greg did an excellent job making that connection and being a wrestler and also someone who watched it. I think the OVW roster also did an excellent job just trusting Al and allowing them to, no one had any idea what was actually going to be shown when this show came out. So they recorded everything, but it required everyone to really fully be authentically themselves 24/7. So I think also the OVW roster just being as open as possible and trusting the process.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, everybody a part of OVW really committed and were willing to be completely 100% open and honest and allowed to be captured on camera. And that's what made it work.
Yeah, as one of those who opened up and told a little bit of my story or whatever. Before the Netflix thing, I was the ultimate heel, as they would say. Everyone hated me. Even in real life, everyone hated me. They thought I was playing this character. They thought I was just this fake Bougetto girl. And yeah, they watched the Netflix thing and then they realized, oh man, that is really just her. Dang, that kind of sucks, but well, we respect it as her. So yeah, it definitely helped me being open and honest, because now I'm the ultimate babyface, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, you went through this, you achieved this, look at you, you're going for your dreams, woo! So,
I want to get your opinion on a dynamic of wrestling that's fascinating. The man you're sitting next to was known for, was it Aldo Montoya? Am I right in that?
No.
But a lot of things,
Avatar,
and then the
was
thing
the
that the
first one.
world latched onto was Head. Just probably came out of nowhere. Something that can catch fire in this industry, maybe not the stuff you've been prepping for and training for years. Are you ready to latch onto that if that type of thing comes? Can you talk to me about that dynamic in wrestling of knowing when something works and how to latch onto it?
as in like my character?
Yes.
Yeah, so my character is just me, turned up to 1,000. And yeah, it worked. I think I knew that I had something from the beginning because I got so much hate for no reason. People hated me for no reason. So I was like, well, must be doing something right. And then Hollywood Haley J is going to be a household name. So I'm stuck with her. That is me.
And Al, what was that like for you when Head got over and you'd been doing all these things for years, and then you're like, well, apparently the fans are attracted to this?
It wasn't, what people could identify with. They were able to turn to their friends and family and be able to describe me now. And that was what was missing for years, was having that definable, describable persona that allowed the audience to connect with me. So, that's what I preach and I teach to them is, you could be the greatest athlete in the world, and there are plenty out there. But if they don't have that definable personality, that persona that you identify with, and you can then turn and basically sell that wrestler or that athlete to your friends and your family and motivate them to want to watch it, then they're never going to be successful. But the minute that they make that persona and you connect, that's when they become a star.
Anyone from the audience? I don't want to yes, yellow shirt, second row. He asked for our TV viewers if anything was portrayed maybe differently than how it was originally shot for you.
No, I think, if anything was portrayed differently, it was done put in a much better light, let's say, okay? and nothing was done in a negative manner. And there's no way they could have ever shown everything that they filmed, because, I mean, I'm not exaggerating when I tell you they were there filming 7 days a week, like 12, 16 hours a day. And they filmed a lot. I mean, they just were, and they were everywhere, every day, all the time. And there was just no way. And there's no way you can, I mean, you know, there are little moments where we would go to live events and something funny would happen or interesting or unique, but they just can only incorporate so much of that in to be able to really tell a linear story that you can follow. Otherwise, you're hopping over here, you're hopping over there, and but they were so talented, the crew, and Greg himself is so talented that they were able to condense all of that down to its final form, and they did an amazing job.
Front row, you had a question, I believe?
Yeah. So when you watch the show, every episode seems like some shit show happens. Like the first episode was the monitors went out.
Yeah.
And this goes out.
Yeah.
And that goes out. And somebody quit.
And it's still working like that. Yeah.
So my actual question.
Yeah, it's a shit show every goddamn week.
So the question is like physically.
Yeah.
You.
Yeah.
And the ringmaster and all this. Does it affect you physically?
Yeah.
Do you have a high blood pressure?
Oh, not yet.
Oh.
I don't yet, surprisingly. Should I? Yes, I should.
There's a lot of gray hairs.
Yeah. I have more gray hair now because of this.
Yeah, 'cause I watch the show.
Oh, yeah.
I get stressed watching
Oh,
it.
yeah.
I was like, I could only imagine.
It's every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I deal with this every single day.
No physical anything.
Not yet. It'll probably be coming.
He
I'm not
loves us.
exaggerating. Like,
Don't let
what
him
you
push
saw, that's just a small piece of what I deal with every day. I get honest to God, okay? Today's been a nice day. But
He only has 3 of us to deal with.
It's supposed to be a vacation. I followed you from Kentucky.
starts about 9 o'clock in the morning, and from 9 to about 1:30 in the afternoon, I'll get anywhere from 25 to 30 emails from 25 to 30 different people with 25 to 30 different agendas. I will get 25 to 30 text messages with 25 to 30 different people with 25 to 30 different agendas. I will get at least 10 to 15 phone calls from 10 to 15 different people with 10 to 15 different agendas that are completely unique from the texts and emails. And then I will start to get direct messages on these stupid social media apps that these people now can. I have been unequivocally insane for years.
Wait, can I
Follow him on social media. He
can
does
I
these
say
workouts,
something?
bro. They're intense. It's ridiculous.
Sorry, Al and Haley. He makes a point. So I will admit that we all have, again, I'm sorry, I wrestled, that's why I sound like this. But anyways, we all have Al's number, and that is a privilege. All of us, who perform every week, we have full access to Al. And whether he regrets it or not, that is a privilege. Any time of day, unfortunately, we have the access to text him. And I've done it. And so I know if I'm doing it, everyone else is doing it, right? And he gives us that. That's what it's like to be a part of OVW. You have full access to just become better. Al will come to pay-per-view and just be there for hours every week trying to help you get better. And I think that's what helps with his insanity when he sees the payoff. Like, it sucks. All these kids are texting me all day, but man, he won't admit it, but when they get it, I think that's his moment of, all right, I'm going to stick around and deal with this.
Oh, it is. That's the most rewarding thing, is watching Haley and Will and Tiffany and others that have come there, and then watching them develop and grow is very satisfying. And I don't mind because I have a responsibility to all of them, and their responsibility is that they now carry my name and my reputation wherever they go, and I make it clear. I've spent 42 years building that reputation. I'm not going to let anyone ruin it. No one. I told the Netflix people the exact same thing. I'm going to be who I am. I'm not going to portray something just because you think it'll be better TV. You're going to turn the cameras on. I'm going to do the same, say the same, act the same while you're here that I will before you got here and what I will when you leave. Because I still have I have a responsibility to OVW, and I have a responsibility to the wrestling business itself. And when you leave, I'm going to go to these conventions, and these other people who have been in the business for the same period of time I have, I'm going to have to answer to them for what you show on the air. And I'm not going to do anything to ruin that.
And before we go, for all of you, any thoughts? We're going to have a lot of people watching this more on TV than maybe are in this room right now who want to get into wrestling someday. Any advice for them from both of your perspectives, for the younger wrestlers here, and then, of course, from Al?
Well, my advice would obviously be get some good training, go to a good school, start off there, learn the fundamentals, okay? And then my personal advice would be just be you, because I've had so many people to tell me, oh, don't be Hollywood, don't do this, don't say that, and I'm doing just fine, thank you, everybody. So be you and stay true. Wow.
The advice I would give to anybody is find a instructor who has experience in the goals you want to achieve. If you want to go to WWE, find someone who has been to WWE and be trained by them. They will have the experience because they'll have the knowledge and the know-how of what they did to help you. If you want to have a career overseas, find someone who has that experience so they can teach you and help you avoid the pitfalls and mistakes that they made so that you'll have a better chance of an opportunity to go overseas. Doesn't matter where you go. Also find a school where you will actually be formally trained. You're not going to learn how to properly do anything in 12 weeks. You're not going to learn to do it even in a year. It's going to take years, but it's going to take time for you to really, really learn the fundamentals and have a solid base that will increase your chances of being able to take advantage of any opportunities that arise and also prevent you from possibly injuring yourself or someone else when you're in the ring performing.
Last thing, especially in this business, you're always learning. Like, I thought I was good before I got to OVW, and then Al's teaching me a whole new way of working TV, and I haven't even scratched what I thought I knew. So it just, like he said, like, Al was famous for shaking a plastic head, but he's been there, whatever was the reason. So if that's where you want to go, like, that's where I want to go, because OVW is going to help every single part of my game that, of course, I came to OVW to learn from Al, and he's been everywhere I want to be, so why not?
Tiffany?
I think Al and my peers very much summed it up very well. I'm going to end it with, if you want to get in this, always stay ready. You don't have to get ready. Stay ready. This is a long-term ride, and stay ready.
Well, thank you so much. Can I get a round of applause for Al Snow and the OVW Stars?
Thank you guys very much.
So I want to thank Al and all his students for sitting down with us. And now a bonus interview that I brought you a few months ago that I wanted to bring back because it's appropriate for what we just talked about. I was at the event, the Shad Gaspard Memorial event. If you remember Shad Gaspard, he was the member of Crime Time, former WWE superstar that died in the Pacific Ocean rescuing his son from drowning a few years ago. Just a hero in the world of pro wrestling. And one of the guys I met at this event was the guy who trained him and discovered others like John Cena, Brock Lesnar, Randy Orton, Dave Batista. That would be Nightmare Danny Davis, the guy who used to own Ohio Valley Wrestling. I looked around, I couldn't find really much on him. Everyone was like, this is the interview to get. So I was so excited to sit down with Nightmare Danny Davis for really almost an unprecedented interview for him about how he started this developmental territory for WWE and brought guys like John Cena to global prominence and fame, along with Lesnar, Orton, Batista, and so many more. So here's an interview, a look back at Ohio Valley Wrestling's original days with Nightmare Danny Davis. Well, we are here with, as everyone tells me, the legendary Danny Davis. Danny, thanks for joining us on the show today.
Hey, thank you, Scott. Appreciate the invite.
So I wasn't as familiar until our friend of the show, Elijah Burke, told me all about your background at OVW.
Yes.
And just training the greats in this industry. Talk to me about your background.
Well, for 10 years, OVW, home base was Louisville, Kentucky. We trained pretty much all the known wrestlers for WWE back in the time. And we actually had sent a total of about 115 individuals, male and female, to WWE.
So you worked with the legends. Right now we're talking about Shad Gaspard here with
Great guy,
Primetime,
great
JTG. And
Yes.
talk to me about bringing up JTG and Shad Gaspard and helping them train.
Plain and simple, those two guys had what it takes to succeed in this business. It's called the it factor. They had a gift. It's something you can't teach. It's a gift that you were actually born with. And fortunately, both of those talent had it to succeed in the business. And Shad Gaspard, an exemplar, just a wonderful, wonderful human being.
And talk to me about you discovered the legends. I want to start with maybe the biggest of them all, John Cena.
John Cena.
How did that happen?
Plain and simple, when we first started training individuals for World Wrestling Federation at the time, John relocated to Louisville, Kentucky. Jeffersonville, Indiana is where the first arena was. And he came in and spent about a year and a half there cutting his teeth, honing his skills until he got called up to the main roster.
Did you know he had it at that point?
5 minutes after I was introduced to John Cena, I knew he had it, because a lot of guys who relocate and come to a different city, they need help, like finding an apartment or just anything. John had already found an apartment, set himself up. He knew where the local gym was for him to work out, and all he had to do was just show up at OVW. I did not have to babysit him, not one bit.
So he was different than like a Randy Orton. Randy Orton grew up in the industry.
Yes, he
Talk
did.
to me about the difference between like a Cena and an Orton,
Sure.
a guy who grew up in it.
Sure. Well, first off, Randy Orton, like you said, grew up in the business. He watched his dad, he watched his grandpa, and so he kind of had teachings growing up on how to act and what, everything to do. And he was a good technical wrestler along with a good entertainer, Randy Orton.
Yeah.
Well, John Cena, and I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying this, he really was not that good of a technical wrestler. But John Cena had a gift, the gift of gab. And he could talk his way out of any situation, and he had charisma. He just something about him that he also had the it factor, but in a different way. It wasn't technical wrestling. It was a way to make a connection with each and every individual that was in the arena or at home watching on TV. He had that gift.
And then the other guy who kind of went as big as Cena, Dave Bautista.
Dave Bautista, and back in the day, he was known as Leviathan.
Yeah.
Back when he was training, he came out of the Mississippi River, back in the day. And so, a big, massive man who was a gentle soul. He was a very quiet man. And the first time I saw him, I called the office. Jim Ross was head of talent relations at the time. I called him and says, "This guy he's got a WrestleMania moment."
He looked like a wrestler. The thing that I think shocked everyone was the acting.
Yes. When he kind of retired from wrestling and got into acting and did the things he did, I didn't know that he had that gift, but buddy, he did.
Yeah.
He's just a great entertainer.
So was Lesnar in your class too?
Absolutely,
Talk
yes.
to me about Brock. Now Brock, when you come in, he's a beast.
Literally, yeah. And Brock, he looks in the mirror every morning. He gets up and he challenges himself. Mm-hmm. He is never laid back. He does not rest on his laurels. He tries to find ways to make himself better each and every single day of his life. That's him. And what you see on TV, how he is, how arrogant, how he was in the MMA world, that's him in real life.
So I hear all the time about wrestlers going, and it's so hard when you just start out and they stretch you and all that stuff. For Brock Lesnar, was that the case, though?
No one could stretch Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
Brock Lesnar decided who he was going to stretch. Ask Kurt Angle.
So did Vince and everyone kind of know when Lesnar came in, we've got something here, even before he was in WWE?
Yes. Yeah, because I mean, he was the wrestling champion, and so when you have that kind of a background coming into the pro world, it's not a given, but it's a giant leap forward in succeeding, because and Brock, although he was intensity all the time, Brock was very athletic. I mean, he could do aerial moves that most lightweights could not do.
Yeah.
He was just, I mean, he was 6'3", 6'4", weighed 290 pounds. This guy, there's nothing that he could not do or wouldn't try to do if he couldn't do it.
Can you believe the class you had there back in the early 2000s? It was incredible.
It will never be repeated again because I don't think the caliber of individuals are coming up through the ranks. I just don't. I mean, I hope that it is, Scott, but I honestly don't know if that caliber of individual is being born this day and age.
What are you doing with yourself now? You still involved in it?
No. 5 years ago, I sold my company, and my wife and I relocated to Clearwater, Florida, retired. This is the first thing I've done in the pro wrestling, and because I'm great friends with Elijah. He was one of my guys that I trained, and he's done well. And this benefit for Chad Gaspard, his family and whatnot, this Memorial Cup is, when he asked me to be a part of it, there's no way I was going to say no.
Sure.
And so my wife and I drove up from Clearwater, and we've got to see some sights here in Jacksonville, and we love it. And if we stay over, we're going to tune in to Channel 4.
We look forward to it. Danny Davis, thanks for joining us on the show today.
I appreciate it. My pleasure.
Thank you. So thanks for joining us again. Thanks to Al Snow and the group from Wrestlers for coming on the show with us. So happy to sit down with them. And thanks to River City Wrestling Con for helping provide that interview, as well as Farrah and Farrah for help sponsoring it. They were really the impetus to get that going. So thanks to all of them for helping make it happen. And thank you for joining us for this episode of Going Ringside. Victoria Crawford will be here in coming weeks, so look for that. We'll see you back here next time.
This has been Going Ringside with The Local Station, brought to you every Wednesday on your favorite podcast player, on News4 Jax Plus, as well as the News4 Jax YouTube channel.